Star Trek: How Long Khan Was Stranded and Why He Hated Kirk So Much. Before the events of Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan, how long was Khan Noonien Singh Ricardo Montalban stranded and simmering in his hatred of Captain James T. Kirk William Shatner? Directed by Nicholas Meyer, Star Trek II is perhaps the most revered Star Trek movie among fans. 1982 Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan is a sequel to the Star Trek, the original series episode Space Seed, which introduced the genetically engineered warlord who became Star Trek's greatest villain. Star Trek, the original series Space Seed, happened in 2267, and Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan takes place in 2285. Therefore, 18 years have passed since Captain Kirk stranded Khan on Ceti Alpha V. However, only 15 years passed in real time since Star Trek, the original series' Space Seed, aired on NBC in 1967, and Star Trek II hit movie theaters in 1982. Regardless, Khan had ample time to simmer, and his hatred of the man he would be incensed to discover became Admiral Kirk. In the 18 years after the Starship Enterprise left Khan and his followers on Ceti Alpha V, neither Captain Kirk nor Starfleet returned to check on them. If Kirk had, he would have learned that 6 months after leaving Khan on Ceti Alpha V, the neighboring Ceti Alpha 6 exploded, shifting V's orbit. Originally a lush but wild world, Ceti Alpha V was turned into a barren, inhospitable wasteland where the only indigenous species to survive were the poisonous Ceti eels. Originally announced in 2022 Star Trek, Khan will finally tell the story of what happened during the nearly 2 decades after Captain Kirk and the USS Enterprise stranded Khan and his people on Ceti Alpha V. In Star Trek, Khan, Naveen Andrews' Lost Voices Khan, and Ren Schmidt for All Mankind plays LT. Marla McGivers, the Starfleet officer who became Khan's beloved wife. An intriguing aspect of Star Trek, Khan, however, will be the fracturing of Khan Noonien Singh's psyche as he blames Captain Kirk for all he has suffered. After all, at the end of Star Trek, the original series' Space Seed, Khan was amenable and even excited by the challenge of his own world to tame. Star Trek: Khan will finally chronicle the tragedy that Khan blames Captain Kirk for in Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan. In the annals of Star Trek lore, few villains loom as large or as memorably as Khan Noonien Singh. Introduced in the classic 1967 Star Trek, the original series episode Space Seed, and immortalized in the 1982 film Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan, Khan represents more than just a formidable adversary. He's a Shakespearean figure driven by vengeance, pride, and a deep sense of betrayal. But to understand the depth of Khan's hatred for Captain James T. Kirk, one must look beyond the fiery rhetoric and consider the long, torturous years he spent stranded on a hostile world. So how long was Khan actually marooned, and what transformed a genetically engineered Superman into one of the Federation's most dangerous threats? The genesis of Khan, a tyrant from the past, before Khan ever laid eyes on Kirk or the USS Enterprise, he was already a historical footnote from Earth's darkest century. In the late 20th century, during the Eugenics Wars 1992 to 1996, Khan Noonien Singh was among the most successful of the genetically engineered supermen who rose to power. Known for his strength, intelligence, and charismatic leadership, Khan seized control of more than a quarter of the planet. But like all empires built on superiority and fear, Khan's rule eventually crumbled. He and 84 of his fellow augments fled Earth aboard the sleeper ship SS Botany Bay, entering suspended animation in the hopes of a second chance. That chance arrived more than 2 centuries later. Space Seed: A Dangerous Kindness. When the Enterprise discovered the Botany Bay adrift in space in the 23rd century, they unknowingly woke a slumbering giant. At first, Khan appeared gracious, curious about this new world. Captain Kirk, embodying the ideals of the Federation, offered hospitality, even admiration, for Khan's past achievements. But the Superman's ambition hadn't dulled with time. He quickly tried to seize control of the Enterprise, believing that the future lacked the kind of strong leadership he could provide. Kirk stopped the coup, but rather than imprison Khan, he made a fateful decision. In an act of mercy, or perhaps arrogance, he offered Khan and his followers a chance to build a new life on Ceti Alpha V, a marginally habitable planet. It was a poetic sentence, just punishment for a tyrant who once thought he could rule the world. Khan accepted, proudly, even quoting Paradise Lost, "It is better to rule in hell than serve in heaven." But Kirk had no idea just how hellish Khan's new domain would become. Ceti Alpha V, a Paradise Lost. At the time Khan and his followers were left on Ceti Alpha V, the planet was harsh but survivable. It had arid terrain, some wildlife, and enough resources for the augments to begin building a new civilization. And for a while they did. By Khan's own account, they thrived in the early years, tapping into their genetic advantages to adapt and endure. Then came the catastrophe. 6 months after Khan was stranded, the neighboring planet, Ceti Alpha 6, exploded. The detonation shifted the orbit of Ceti Alpha V, transforming it into a desolate wasteland. Sandstorms ravaged the surface. The planet's fragile ecosystem collapsed. Most of Khan's followers, including his beloved wife strongly implied to be Marla McGivers, the historian who had defected to his side in Space Seed, died in the harsh new conditions. There was no warning, no aid, no way to communicate with the outside galaxy, and to Khan, no explanation. In Khan's eyes, Kirk had abandoned them to die. How long was Khan stranded? By the time of Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan, more than 15 years had passed since Kirk had left Khan on Ceti Alpha V. That's a decade and a half of survival, hardship, and the slow burn of hatred. For Khan, those years were marked not just by physical suffering, but by the psychological erosion of hope. Every sunrise over that barren planet was a reminder of what he had lost, not just his dreams of conquest, but his people, his wife, and his pride. 15 years on a dying world is enough to break most men. But Khan was not most men. The Fire of Vengeance. When Khan was finally discovered by Captain Terrell and Commander Chekhov of the USS Reliant, who had mistakenly landed on Ceti Alpha V while searching for a test site for the Genesis device, his opportunity for revenge was reignited. The madness that had simmered beneath Khan's regal demeanor erupted into calculated rage. He hijacked the Reliant, coerced its crew, and plotted a campaign not just of retaliation but of annihilation. To Khan, Kirk was not merely an enemy. He was the betrayer, the one who had exiled him, forgotten him, and doomed his people. The Genesis device, a powerful terraforming technology, became a symbol to Khan, a weapon through which he could unmake Kirk's world just as his had been unmade. He tasked me. Khan's obsession with Kirk mirrors the intensity of Ahab's pursuit of the white whale in Moby Dick, a parallel the film makes explicit. In fact, Khan quotes Ahab throughout The Wrath of Khan, his every action driven by a singular, all-consuming vendetta. His intelligence, charisma, and strength had always been his greatest assets, but now they were consumed by vengeance. Even when he could have escaped, even when victory was in sight, Khan chose to chase Kirk to the bitter end. From hell's heart I stab at thee, for hate's sake I spit my last breath at thee. It's a line that encapsulates Khan's transformation from ruler to exile, from survivor to avenger. Kirk's guilt and the human cost. While Khan's vendetta is dramatic and operatic, Star Trek II also subtly examines Kirk's own responsibility. His decision to leave Khan on Ceti Alpha V, while well-intentioned, was rooted in a kind of moral overconfidence. Kirk believed he was giving Khan a fair chance. But he never followed up, never checked in, never considered the possibility that things might go wrong. That negligence became the catalyst for Khan's wrath. The confrontation between Kirk and Khan is ultimately one of consequence. It's not,